Welcome to the second video in Indie Resources web-based MMO framework. In this one, I'm just going to we're going to set up some constants to kind of start building from. And the first thing I want to do is build the player. That's usually where I start. What we're building here now is just a simple start. This isn't going to be the finish. This is just because we don't know how things are going to change as we go. What we're going to add, we do need to start somewhere. So I wanted to kind of build a framework around our player and go ahead and get some constants defined. So if we look at our player, what I was thinking is you guys will be able to name this whatever you want. I want to use a common name that everybody's going to be able to recognize. It's actually going to be in the code. It's not what's going to show up on your page. Whatever you decide is going to show up on your page, but on the back end, you'll be able to instantly kind of correlate what you name directly to whatever's named in the code. So when you go to make some edits, you'll know exactly what you're changing. So to me, the four basics right now is strength, agility, mind, and body. Now with strength is your, of course, overall strength. Agility is going to be like your dexterity, your speed, all that stuff. Your mind is going to be pretty much, you can name it wisdom, IQ, whatever it is about your mind. I know a lot of games have like two minds, like an IQ and a wisdom and things like that, and I don't see a whole lot of point in that right now, especially with what we're going with. We may add some more later as we build a lot of the algorithms, especially for combat and stuff, but for now we're going to stick with this. And then body is going to be like your constitution, let's say, and things like that. And then we have our body points. Instead of putting hit points, you can name it hit points, but I'm just going to call it body points, BP, and it doesn't matter what you name it. And then mind points, it could be your spell points, your psychic psionic points, and depending on the game, we may decide, hey, you can have magic points and spell points. I'm sorry, magic points and psionic points. We may change that, but for now, I'm just going to do this MP. The next thing we want to define is our skills. And thinking about our skills, of course, we're going to have a skill name. We're going to have the level of the skill. Now, the level of the skill doesn't have to be level 1, level 2. It could be this. It's going to be anything that defines how you want to play out the game. So if you want to do percentages, it's still going to fall under level. You'll just have, for under level, you'll have like a 40 for 40%, and it's only in the database, and how it pulls from the database are the characters going to see that, or the player's going to see that. You'll be able to name it whatever you want. And then of course the description. The next thing, spell name. It doesn't have to be a spell. Of course, this could be psionics or special powers or whatever it may be. Like I said, you'll get to name that. The type, because you're going to have combat type, you're going to have healing, you're going to have buffs, you're going to have all these different types, and that's what's going to tell the inside the code what stats to use when this goes off. Because if you think about it, if it's a healing spell, then you're going to put healing, and then that way we can put, if this equals healing, then we're actually going to add these points instead of take them away. And just like if it's let's say a crafting spell, well, you don't want to be able to use it in combat, so that's where we're going to have to be able to define that type. The level is going to be kind of the same way, except for I figured, you can like level up your spells to make them better. And of course, that's going to be part of this, getting to kind of make it however you want. The stat, if it's a buff, or maybe, let's say it's a buff and it buffs your strength, then we're going to be able to put strength in there. Well, let's say it's a spell that relies, let's say it's a combat spell that actually adds your strength or doubles it. Well, you can still put strength in there, and we'll have a separate set of code that will define that. Then the value could be, if it's a healing, how much does it heal? The damage, how much damage does it do? Or what a buff, whatever it does, that's going to be the value point. And see, it's just a kind of a name for whatever we're going to do. That way we don't have to build something separate for every type of spell. We can just use one general outline of it. Cost, then how much does it cost? How many points does it cost? Or in other words, if it's a fireball spell, does it cost 10 of your spell points, and so forth. And then of course a description. To me, that's our basics. That's where we want to get started. Of course, we're going to be adding more to this and taking away and so forth, but to me, we got to get these constants defined. I did go ahead and decide to use Komodo just because I was just having a lot of issues with Eclipse, and the PHP doesn't really show up right, and wasn't too happy with it. So guys, feel free to use whatever you want for your editor. If you're this far, then you've already got your own editor picked out anyway. Basically, just create a new file. I'm going to go ahead and save it, and I have, let me go back, I did create a folder called framework inside of my WAMP www, named it framework, and we're going to name this constants.php. Now, if someone's already lost, like, okay, what did he just do? What's going on? Then you need to go back and watch some of my beginner tutorials. I'm assuming that anybody watching this is already to this point by now. So the first thing we want to do, let's go ahead and open up some PHP here so we can do some PHP coding. Let me come down here, and I'm just going to define, these are player definitions, and we'll put them in between here. Now the first thing we want to define is our strength. We're going to call it strength in the code, but whatever you put here is what the players are going to see. So I'm just going to call mine strength. Now for agility, let's say I want to call it dexterity instead. Well, I just come in here and put dexterity, and then we have our body. Let's say I want to call it constitution. And let's do our mind. Let's say I want to call it wisdom. And basically what we're doing, if we define these constants here, it doesn't matter what you name this, we're still going to be timesing this by whatever it is, and so it's all going to come out equal in the end. Now for our hit points, our body points. BP equals, I'm going to name mine hit points, and then our MP equals, I'm going to go with spell points. And then let's look back to see what we got. So we've basically finished out our player. Now we need to do skills. So let's we're going to call skill name equals, and then I'm just gonna call mine skills. I mean, because you may not want to call them skills. You may want to call them abilities or feats or whatever it may be. And then we want to name what's next. So we just want a level and a description. Description I'm not going to really put in here because I believe everybody's going to use description. And I'm just going to call mine, we'll call it level for now. I'm trying to think if I want to do percentage, but or something, but let's just do level for now. And then we'll do spell name equals, I'm gonna call mine spells. And let's grab these real quick. Type level stat, so let's do type equals, and I'm gonna call mine, I keep doing that, type. And technically, no, we want to keep type just like that, because type's not going to really be shown. I guess type will be shown to anybody, but that's pretty universal, so I don't see a point in going through all that. I do want level, which we've already got. I tell you, here's the other thing. We need to change this to skill level, and that way we can do this for spell level equals, and I'm going to go ahead and call mine level. I mean, you might want to call it trained or whatever it may be, or bonus maybe or something. Stat, we want to keep the same. Value, let's leave that the way it is. Cost, let's leave it the same. So right now everything's good on that. That's the only thing we really need to define on those. And so that's a basic set of our definitions. And to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing here, let's create a new file. Let's create our index.php. I'm going to save this as index.php, and let's go ahead and throw up some PHP here, and let's pretend we were building our stat box. So what we could do is, I'm not going to worry about putting div tags or making anything really pretty or anything. I'm just kind of showing my point here. We would just echo out our strength, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cheat real quick, and I'm going to grab all this, and I'm just going to paste it, and I'm going to echo, and I'm going to come in here and whoops, yeah, that's what we want. Just so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So let's, and I could use one echo for this, but I'm just gonna do, because we're just doing a real quick example. And then of course we want to drop this on a new line, or so that way, okay. So let's just copy this. Guess I could have left those out to make it a little easier, but oh well. So and actually, if anybody else, if I don't know if anybody noticed this error out there, but I've been working in too many different languages here lately, and I'm used to JavaScript and been using Java quite extensively here in the past 2 weeks, so I'm using the plus sign. Also, we need to include our constants file, that way it will actually pull those constants. So let's pull constants.php, and that'll include our constants file, which we will have to include on all our web pages, but I goofed up, used the plus when actually it's the period that will concatenate it. So let's pull up a browser, and looks like I already got one set up, and let's go to localhost framework dot index.php, and you'll see I have everything I've named out there. So whatever you used here in your constants and name them will show up over here, and that's how we're going to allow, that's the first real quick way that we're going to show. We're going to kind of do it to where everybody can name everything their own, and every game will be individual, and it'll make it really easy. All you got to do is when you first download this thing, go into that constants page, which is going to have all of the constants. I'm going to try to put everything in 1 or 2 pages to where you guys can easily go through and name whatever you want, and bam, you're already set up. It's ready to go right off for it. So whatever you name it, it is going to show up this way. And then we'll just have to have another defining point that will actually define that stat, which will come from the database. So it's a quick setup, kind of gives everybody an idea on how we're going to go from here. That's basically the player setup. Next, we're actually going to start setting up our CSS and our sheet. And the way I want to do it is I actually want to be able to set it up to where you guys can easily move. I want to put everything in boxes, and you guys can easily swap those boxes around. If you don't feel like going through and doing your own CSS type work and completely just changing everything, you can still do your own individual kind of do your own setup and layout the way you want easily.